And the battle over Clive Bundy's land far from over. This morning, Western states now joining in the fray and are taking their fight to the feds. How lawmakers are telling Uncle Sam that they're trying to get their land back and they want it back or else.
Out west, where they had some beautiful weather, I think, if I was paying attention to Rick. But now the battle over the Bundy Ranch igniting the furor of a number of state legislatures, because they have for a long time been dealing with federal power grabs as it relates to their own land, going back many, many generations, of course. And now there was a summit that had been planned out there among the western states before this whole thing with the Bundy Ranch exploded. And now state governors and members of legislatures from different western states are getting together and saying, this is the time now to reassess our relationship with the federal government as it relates to land and what sort of relationship they can come in and take our land from us and you know, stand up for ourselves.
Yeah, they're saying we can manage our land better than you can. We're the ones who live here. We're the ones that are grazing our cattle and grazing our sheep on these lands. And we've been here for centuries. So you stay in Washington, let us control our land, and they know what's best for their own economies. And they're saying we want the power and get out of our way.
Well, the timing couldn't be any better for these lawmakers to step up and actually move on to this topic at hand, which is what do we do about these federally controlled lands, which has become a problem, as we've seen in Nevada, with the Bureau of Land Management charging Clive Bundy some $1 million for grazing fees and water rights. And while there's a rule of law there and both should be complying to that, the bottom line is they're trying to say to the federal government, hey, enough is enough. You know, we need to control these lands so that we can do for our citizens what we know they need more than you do.
And specifically in Idaho, here's one example to give you some context. Yeah, which is the Forest Service, right? And Idaho said, look, the lands that are federally managed, they don't know how to deforest those lands properly. You know, the deforestation process that enables them to not have these big forest fires. Under Idaho lands, those lands have not caught fire as much as the federally controlled lands. We know better how to tend to our own lands.
So what does that say?
Well, it says that, you know, it says what also happened in Montana when I was there in 2000. They wanted the federal government to butt out. There was a furor when I was there covering the governor's office in 2000 over the Clinton administration as it was about to leave, grabbing Montana land and cordoning off part of it for wolf restoration, all of these other things. And Montanans were saying, wait a second, this is our land. We know how better to manage it. Butt out, stay in Washington.
It's been going on for a long time. A lot of the states that are west of the Mississippi, you remember the Sagebrush Rebellion decades ago as well. But a lot of people are saying now, I'm getting scared of the federal government. I'm scared of Uncle Sam, and they're beginning to fear the federal government. Look at this recent poll.
It's the worst maybe it's ever been, 37%.
Yeah, almost 40%.
And why do you think that is? It's generally because people are saying the federal government has become so intrusive and so arbitrary, and they enforce that. So people are wondering, well, how do I battle the federal government? How do I battle the IRS? I mean,
you feel like you can't. Your hands are tied.
We had this story on the show earlier this morning about the IRS tracking license plates of individuals.
Right.
We know the NSA. I mean, think about the NSA scandal over the past year.
Right.
What else do we have? I mean, the list goes on and on and on, right, as to government and federal intrusion.
Listening to your phone calls, reading your emails.
Of course we fear the federal
auditing you.
government. And Thomas Jefferson must be rolling over in his grave right now. One of the things that he said is that a government should always fear its people.
Exactly.
That the people should never fear its government. And when it happens, you should throw off the shackles of that government and start a new one. I mean, if 37% of the United States right now fears its federal government, we're in troubled times.
And real quickly, you're talking about throwing off the shackles, as Thomas Jefferson talked about throwing off the shackles of that government. Because people are out there calling protesters in Nevada domestic terrorists, we should say that you can throw off those shackles of government by having good redress and going into petitioning the government and making demands that, look, you got to get it right. And right now, the government's not getting it right. That's why there's uncertainty and distrust.
All right, now let's move on to our headlines this morning.